Hi, second grade. Welcome to our final science lesson. Today's lesson, we're going to talk about how living things are everywhere that you look. Oops, that worked. I thought I pressed pause on our record. So here we are. Many kinds of living things live all over planet Earth. They live on and around and in water. Forests, deserts, oceans, and ponds are full of living things. Different kinds of plants and animals live in different places. Some animals only live on land and some only live on water. Their body parts have evolved to help them live in one environment over another. Some can live in both places. Let's take a look at this hippopotamus, for example. The hippopotamus spends its time on land and water, so it's an excellent swimmer, but it also comes up and can walk and eat vegetation on land as well. But if we take a look at this chameleon, he lives on land all of the time. There's no part of his body that's equipped to live in the water at all times. Plants are the same way. If we take a look at this picture, you can see the kelp and the coral growing. These things would not survive very well if they were out of the water. The same thing with the fish. Their body parts and the way that they take in oxygen is completely different than the way that land animals take in oxygen. So they would not survive outside of this environment. So the question that goes with this lesson is, where on earth do plants and animals live? That's right. The answer is everywhere. You can find them in the water, you can find them on the land. Describe how the animals and habitats shown are alike and different. So we have three images here. We have our fish that lives in the ocean or lakes and streams and ponds. We have our hippopotamus, which currently is inside the water, but we know that it can eat and live both in the water and on land. And our chameleon friend here, who is always going to be found on land. We're going to skip ahead to a particular type of habitat, and this is the coast. Many plants and animals live on the sandy coast. And they call this the sandy coast because you can see most of the land in this area is sand. A coast is a land that is next to the ocean. You can see seagrass. Here's some of the grasses I'm pointing to along the edge of the water. There's crab, a turtle, and an egret. An egret is the name of this bird here. The egret will use its sharp bill to catch other animals. These plants and animals depend on the sandy coast for survival. They all live here, the grasses, the other animals, and they depend on each other for survival. The ghost crab eats clams and newly hatched turtles. It even eats other crabs. And the egret eats snakes, insects, and fish. And the insects and other small animals hide in the seagrass. So not only do we have animals and plants, which are all living organisms, but we also have non-living things in the environment. And all of those things working together make the perfect habitat for these types of animals. So we have the sand, we have rocks, we have soil, we have water, we have the air, we have sunlight. Those are some examples of the non-living things. And the animals here depend on the seagrass and other trees and small bushes and the water for protection and shelter. Now, the living things in the environment, the plants and the other animals, they depend on them for food. So it's kind of a predator-prey type relationship there, but all of them depend on each other. Living things and non-living things together. All right, question number 1. Choose an animal that lives on the coast. Tell how it depends on another animal or a plant. I'm going to give you some time to think about that and talk about it with someone next to you. Maybe you want to discuss the crab or the turtle or the egret. How is the egret depending on the turtles, the crabs, the other things that we talked about, snakes, for example, or insects? Now the next question says, what might happen to some of the animals if the seagrass died? So we talked about the seagrass in the picture and what it provides for the animals in this environment. We talked about that the seagrass can be eaten to provide food and energy for some of the other animals. It also can be used as a shelter for some of these animals. The crab, the turtle, little fish might go there in search of shelter to stay protected from the animals who are trying to eat it. Here's one of the picture of the little turtle. He is going to be a creature that depends on both the land and the sea for survival. He needs to come up to shore when it's older to lay eggs. For the rest of its life, it lives out in the ocean. Why do you think the young turtle crawls quickly into the ocean after it hatches? I'll give you a little clue. One of these animals in there depends on that little turtle for survival. Why is he rushing back to the ocean? He or she, I guess I don't know if it's a girl. Why is that little turtle rushing back to the ocean? If you answered because that's the safest place for him to get away from that egret, you are correct. That turtle is using a non-living part of its habitat for shelter and protection. Our next lesson is going to focus on living things in a wetland. A wetland is land that is covered with water some of the time. Plants and animals here are suited to life in this wet place. The heron, which is this bird here, kind of looks like the egret. The heron has long legs. It uses those long legs to wade in the water as it hunts for fish. We have an alligator here. The alligator moves easily through the water to hunt. It may catch fish and turtles with its strong jaws. It may also eat the heron if it can catch it. Here, they're hard to see. They're kind of camouflaged, but these are vultures. Vultures eat animals that have died. Vultures can find plenty of food in this wetland. So leftovers that the alligator hadn't eaten or any animals that died of natural causes in the water, they might wash up to the edge. That's what vultures would eat. They're called scavengers. So we've got our hunters, we've got some scavengers, and the animals that are in here that are getting eaten are the prey for these predators here. These vultures eat whatever they can find. They might eat the alligator's leftovers. Look on the heron here. It says the great blue heron can fly away if the alligator gets too close. That's one of the ways that it can protect itself. Let's see what it says about the alligator. The alligator hunts mostly in the water. It gets warm by living on land in the sunlight. So as we talked about in the last slide, some animals can live in more than one place. So alligators spend a lot of time in the water and they spend a lot of time on land as well. Our final slide is another habitat called the grassland. All right, grasslands are found all over the world. The grassland in this picture is in Australia. Compared to wetlands, grasslands are dry places. They get enough water for grasses to grow. They do not get enough water for many trees to grow. Look at these pictures of some animals that live in Australian grasslands. Why do you think these animals are all similar in color? They all blend well with the grass. This coloring helps them hunt for food without being seen by other animals. You kind of notice not only are they the same color as the grass, but they're also the same color as the non-living things in the background here too, the soil and the rocks. This camouflage helps them not to be seen. They can sneak up on prey, like this, I think it's called a coyote. Let's take a look. A dingo, a wild dog. Groups of dingoes hunt other animals that live in the grassland. So if this dingo was trying to catch this kangaroo, being the same color as the background, the kangaroo might not see him as well. But a red kangaroo eats mostly grasses and other plants. It can cover 8 meters, which is like 25 feet, in a single hop. Going back to the coloring though, if this kangaroo is the same color as the grass, it can also camouflage into the grass, so it makes it harder for the dingo to find it. So that is an adaptation that these animals has developed over time for protection. One of the things that I'd like you to take a look at, we have, how are the grasslands different from the wetlands? Two compound words here, grassland, wetland. If you answered that grasslands and wetlands are different, because wetlands, just like it says in the word, are usually covered with water, grasslands are usually covered with mostly grasses because there's enough water to grow grass, but not enough to grow much more than that, like big trees. Question number 2 says, what characteristics do the pictured animals have that help them live in a grassland? We talked a lot about this. This dingo, this kangaroo, and this emu are all the same color of its habitat, which helps it blend in and be protected. And that's all we have for our life science, interdependent relationships and ecosystems. How do the animals and the environment and the habitats all work together for the survival of plants and animals? Thank you.